This is a carding wheel. We've showed it before. It's fairly soft. If you try this with a regular wire wheel, you'll come back with blood. So as we can see here, that card's right off. That rust, that's not really rust. This is a converted oxide just laying on the surface. You see how black these tubes are turning? It's because these were not that bad. I just wanted to get all that rust off the bottom of the barrels so that now when we oil them, so there's kind of a after, before, all right? You see how effortless this is. I'm not pushing very hard on this wheel, and in fact, this wheel isn't held here by much. You can just move. It's only held here by gravity. So I'm not putting a tremendous amount of force down on this, all right? So this is where it gets a little dicey. Right? So down underneath, where it had not had an opportunity to have a lot of atmospheric oxygen on it, you can see this blue in here. Come back here on the receiver, and you can hear this thing working. That's me bumping the tripod because this barrel's sticking out a while. See, so now, and we've had these comments before in these videos, they go, what about rust that you convert and it doesn't card? And what I'll tell you was, the rust has converted on the surface and then it self-protects. So have you ever seen a container marked Corten steel? Corten steel is designed to rust and protect itself. So we'll go in here and we'll get this good and hard. All right, we're going to switch over to a significantly more aggressive wheel here on the bottom of the barrel. The decision to allow this gun to go this far over the edge was not made by us. So as you can see, we got a lot of it, but we did not get it all. And it's definitely up in the areas where it doesn't want to play. Hang on a minute. So this is on the top, it came off up here. So I'm going to commit sacrilege and I'm going to turn part of this gun white. Because I know that once I go beyond this point, and I knew this when I started this gun, that I was going to wind up having to basically re-rust blue it. But we've got to get this heavy-duty oxide layer off. Now, if this three-dimensional rust had, say, what I would call a shank or something that's sticking up in 3 dimensions, we'd have to bang on it with a hammer. And I don't think we have anything that's quite that heavy-duty here. But this is why we had to polish our hammer faces, because we don't want to grind, beat down through this with a hammer that has stuff on it. Okay, so that's about all I could get off of this with a carding wheel. There are more aggressive options, however. What I'm about to do is considered sacrilege, and I understand that, but it's sacrilege, and we have to do it here. On the side of this wheel, and I'm going to do it underneath the bottom of the barrel here, I'm going to gently begin to get this, and you'll see that this rust starts to turn almost a bright orange because we're actually cutting through the rust. But we have to do this, and we're going to have to boil it again for about another 45 minutes. Don't boil more than 45 minutes. You're just wasting your time and burning fuel. 45 minutes per attempt. Now, I'm not pushing very hard, and as yet I'm not taking any of the blue off, but it's going to get there because we may get to the point where this barrel has to be bead blasted, and I think it's going to have to be bead blasted and then lightly hand polished. So you see this actually pitted. The problem is metal is polished, then it is roll marked, then it's blued, and it has to be done in that order. You cannot come back and polish and then blue again. That's not the order. The order is polish, roll mark, and blue. If you then polish, you have roll marked, blued, and polished. You're out of order. So now I'm going to get to a spot here where that's not very, and I'm going to show you what the 1950s collectors were begging you to not do to a gun like this. I'm going to get on it pretty hard here. Okay, and we almost got it, but I can still feel, right? It still has some of its color, but it's turning white. So I've crossed the line where I'm going to have to re-blue this gun. But I knew that before we cracked the first screw out of it. So I'm going to go over the rest of this barrel like this, take the rest of this heavier rust off of it, and then we're going to hang it in a conversion tank again. But if you look, I don't know if the camera's catching this, but there's 3 dimensions there. This is sticking up above. Now I'll get asked, why not an electrolytic conversion process? Why not take this thing, pretend it's the CSS Hunley or a Canon that we just drug up out of the Ashapoo, put reverse current on it? Well, the problem is that it will dump all this iron right where it is, and you will lose any existing polish that may or may not have already been on the barrel. Okay, so I don't know if that's showing up, but those are pits. See that? I'm trying to roll it. Those are pits, and those are not coming out. So then we get into the conundrum of, if we re-blue this gun, we're bluing it over the pits. And out here by the muzzle, you can see the damage is extreme. So much so that, you know, we're going to have to draw file that because we're not backed by any of the engraving. But as we draw file that, the wall thickness of the barrel will go down. There's a lot of variables here. There's a lot of variables here. But you can see the damage had been done to this gun, and it's extreme. And that damage does not exist on the other gun, which had been kept relatively well oiled, and then it's once in 50 years it's getting stripped down, converted out, changed over. And you can see where it's starting to turn white because we're cutting through the black oxide that's on the surface, the ferroferric oxide, and we're getting down to bare. Right? So I will finish carding the rest of this gun on a more aggressive wheel. Then I'm going to hang it in a tank, and we're going to come back and we're going to try this again.